And until next time, keep talking tube. Today's video isn't quite a video. It's an audio interview that I did with my very good friend Jeremy Vest of VidPal and vidIQ. Links to what Jeremy's up to in the description below. Jeremy hosted and does host the Tube Talk podcast, which has over 100 episodes and is the biggest, baddest podcast about YouTube on the internet. I was lucky enough to be a guest a number of times, but one of those times when we recorded live on Facebook, the video didn't quite go out to plan. Such is life when working with live video. Just a quick note before you get started. Some of the audio may drop in and drop out slightly because it was recorded live. I've done my best to fix it in post, but please bear with me and trust me, it's worth listening to. Earbuds in, roll audio.
It's time for VidPal Tube Talk, everyone's favorite podcast for video marketing tips. Brought to you by VidPal, your video marketing team.
Hey everybody, this is Jeremy Vest with vidpal.com. Today we're going to be talking about 7 ways to get more clicks with Endscreens with the one and only Tom Martin. How's it going, Tom?
Hey Jeremy, great to be speaking to you tonight. Or in daytime where you are.
Yep. What time is it over the pond?
It is 10 to 11 at night, or as I like to say, way past my bedtime.
Yeah. Well, we'll get this done quickly for you so you can go to bed.
No worries.
All right. So we're talking about Endscreens and how to get more clicks with them. And we're talking about basically 7 of the points you talked about. Man, I can't speak today, but we're going to get through this. All right. Number 1, interact with element in vision. What do you mean by elements in vision? Yeah,
so basically I've uploaded throughout the years, thousands and thousands of videos, and I've been able to look at that data and concur with other people like you in the industry. And what I found is that if you've got a human on screen just like this, giving instructions to viewers, they're much more likely to follow your call to action. So if you plan a end screen element, so a subscribe button or another video, and you say point here and there's something clickable there, they're a lot more likely to click on that than if you just had like an arrow, or if you just said it without pointing. That is there must be some kind of psychological trigger. Us humans, we love to follow orders, so that's going to get the most click-through rates. So if possible, get on screen and interact with elements and make sure that's baked into your production, basically.
Awesome. Point number 2, highlight the subscribe button. How do you highlight a subscribe button?
Yeah, so this is connected to the first to point 1. If you are in vision, but if you're not, let's say you're using a graphical based end screen, something like that, what you'll notice is that the subscribe button is just really a circular crop of your YouTube icon. And if the viewer who's viewing your end screen or your end card is quite a light viewer, quite a casual viewer, quite new to the platform, they're going to have no idea that that's a subscribe button. So the best thing to do is to make it as clear as possible. So again, in vision, say click here to subscribe, or if you've got a graphical based end screen, then a big fat arrow with the word subscribe next to it. So there you've left them with absolutely no doubt that is a button and they should be clicking on it.
Awesome. And for number 3, why would you manually select a relevant video versus just let the YouTube do it for you?
Yeah, it's a very good question actually, and it's advice that I hear all the time, and it's not something that I strongly disagree with. But what I would say is that YouTube's algorithm is a machine, and they're going to do a good job of choosing the best video for the viewer, but they don't know your videos as well as you do. So you're really best placed to choose what video to show to your audience next. If a viewer gets all the way to the end of your video to where the end screen is, they've said to you, I'm interested in what you're talking about. I'm interested in this topic and the way that you deliver it. And they're basically begging to know more. So really it's your duty to give them a video to watch next. And if you choose something that's really, really closely related or maybe follows on directly from what you've just spoken about, you're much more likely to get clicked on, and not only clicked on, to get watched more. So, the algorithmic suggestion is probably going to do a good job, but I doubt it's going to do as good a job as you are.
Great. So, why would you link to a playlist versus, there's one of the options is just link to a video or link to a playlist. So why would a playlist be a better option?
Well, a playlist is you're much more likely to get a number of views rather than just being sent to a singular video. But what you can also do is send someone to a singular video, but send it in playlist mode. And so what I mean by that is go into that video where it sits in a playlist of your choice and copy in the full URL that includes the kind of playlist modifier at the end. And what that is going to do is going to send people to that one specific video within that playlist. And once that video is finished, it's going to continue to play the rest of that playlist. And that just means you're much more likely to get another view, which is going to drive up your session times and help you get more views.
And YouTube likes to call this the lean back experience, right? Where people just keep on watching videos in a playlist. Okay, so number 5, don't give too many call to actions. I want a call to action 4,000 times, right? So I want now. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so ideally you'd love people to be able to take 4,000 actions and buy the Jeremy Vest t-shirt and the VidPal hat and go and visit your website and watch another video and subscribe. But the problem is there's this psychological concept called the paradox of choice, and what that says is that if you give people too many choices, they're actually going to get confused and are much more likely to make no choice at all and instead totally abandon what they're doing. So instead, I'd say give 2, at maximum 3 strong calls to action, and make it really clear what your main call to action is. Leave it as to no doubt in the audience's mind what you want them to do. And again, don't give them too many choices, because they're most likely going to just go and watch somebody else's video entirely and click on absolutely nothing of yours.
Awesome. So number 6, you want to add end screens to old videos. So we're talking about almost like re-optimization of an old video specifically for end screens. Why would we want to do that?
Yeah, well, this is really focused on older videos where you were using like note annotations. And note annotations is where you kind of, draw that manual square around a call to action such as subscribe or check out this playlist or check out this guide on my website. But those annotations, they don't work on mobile. And with mobile viewership just growing and growing and growing, I heard someone say recently in the UK alone, it's up to something like 75%, really, really high. And so those calls to actions are just kind of dead ends. So if you go back and instead add an end screen to that with a clickable call to action, that's going to be doing yourself a huge, huge favor. A few things to note are that, one, if you do add end screens, that any note annotations that appear at other stages in a video will also disappear. So if you've got a midway call to action that relies on a note annotation, that's also going to get unpublished. So just remember to add a card at the same time, and also to back that up with a link in the description. Another thing to note is that on a couple of end screens, it's just going to look a bit screwy. It's going to look a bit odd. It's going to look like it doesn't quite fit. So then you need to, weigh up the choice. Do I care if it looks a bit strange, or do I care that no one's going to be able to click on it? And ultimately, that's your decision. But I know that to me, a click is a lot more valuable than someone thinking, oh, that's a bit odd.
Yeah, definitely. So why would you use custom images? The 7th and last tip, by the way. Why would you use custom images for linked elements? And what is a link element?
Yeah, so a link element is, for example, on your end card, you might say, right now, go and check out vidpal.com, where you can get a free channel audit. And when you choose that, when you enter that link, what it's going to do, it's going to pull in an image from that page and that website. And the problem is that it's not necessarily going to pull in the image that you would like it to pull in if you've got multiple images on the page. And also the kind of teaser image that YouTube provides is a square. It's 1 by 1. And if your image is, widescreen image, quite a large image, it's going to get cropped, and it's not going to, act as a great teaser for what you're offering. So instead, when you enter that URL, you'll be given the option to upload a custom image to represent that link. So I would suggest that you always do that. Make sure it's square, and make sure it works together with your kind of teaser text and your headline to really get a click onto that link, because ultimately that's what you want, is a click to that website. Otherwise, why would you even put the element on the end screen in the first place?
Awesome. And Tom, what in the world do you do, and where can people find you?
So you can find me over at faqtube.tv, and I basically help small YouTubers, big YouTubers, beginners, pros, whoever you are. If you're interested in YouTube, I basically help people to get better YouTube results, mainly through optimization and publishing strategy. And particularly if you'd like to find out more about end screens and how to create them, I've created a guide that includes a free downloadable Photoshop template, and you can get that at faqtube.tv/end screen.
I hope you can agree that was a fantastic conversation. Lots of really, really, really important points. As I say, Jeremy is a fantastic podcast host, and you can listen to all of the previous episodes by clicking the link in the description below. Jeremy, as well as being a super, super kind guy, great expert, is also hosting an amazing live event in just a couple of weeks in Gaylord, Texas, and I will actually be speaking at Video Marketing World Workshop. It's going to be a fantastic event where you'll not only learn from experts, but you will take action in workshops with some of YouTube's greatest minds, including myself, Daryl Eves, Tim Schmoyer, Roberto Blake, you name it, they're going to be there. To get your ticket at a discount and before they sell out, link in the description below. I hope you found this useful, and you'll be looking forward to my podcast, which is launching later this year. So make sure you don't miss it when it drops. Click here to subscribe, and to see the rest of the videos that I've uploaded this month for Veda, you can click here for the playlist. See you soon.